Hi, welcome back to my channel. In my first couple of videos that I made for this channel, I mentioned that I had an autoimmune condition that I had suffered with for many years, that once I was able to get a handle on it, I regained energy and felt well enough to start taking parkour classes. And in this video, I want to talk about how that came about and how I figured out what was wrong with me. I don't know if I ever really completely figured out what was wrong with me, but I figured out what was causing it and how to control it. So I've had gut problems off and on my entire life. And when I was younger, it would only flare up when I was under a lot of stress. But as I got older, it became more frequent. I would get what I would, somebody might consider a sour stomach or just, gut pain when I would eat. And as I kept getting older, into my mid to late 30s and early 40s, it just started happening more and more often. And my energy levels just kept going down more and more. And I just felt so bad all the time that I just couldn't do anything. I couldn't do things that I used to enjoy doing, like gardening and hiking. I just didn't feel like it. I felt bad all the time. And I would get to the point where my gut pain would be so bad that I would only eat soup, because when I would eat, it was like I could feel the food moving through my intestines, and they were raw. It's like my intestines were raw and something rough was scraping up against them. That's the only way I really know how to describe the feeling. And it would last for a long time, and I'd eventually just get down to where I was just eating soup, and then it would kind of clear up a little bit. And then I would be able to eat again, but then eventually it would flare back up. And it wasn't just my gut. I was starting to have joint pain, and I had a lot of headaches. I'd always had headaches my entire life. And it just felt like I was getting too old too fast. And I went to some different doctors, and all that they ever wanted to do was give me a proton pump inhibitor, which is for acid reflux. And I didn't have acid reflux. That was one thing I didn't have going on with me, but that's the only thing they knew to do. They did blood work, they did stool samples, they couldn't find anything wrong with me. But what I started noticing as I went to these doctors is not one of them ever asked me what I ate. They never once asked me about my diet. And why wouldn't somebody in the medical profession think that what you eat could have an impact on how your gut feels? It just kind of baffles me still to this day. And so I knew I had to figure this out on my own, because I wasn't getting any help from the medical profession. And so I spent more than a year searching for answers. I Googled my symptoms over and over in as many different ways as I could. And this was back in, 2012, 2013. And there just wasn't nearly as much. And we had YouTube and we had, blogs and things like that. But there just wasn't nearly as much information out there about these kinds of things that there is now. And now there's probably too much information about it, and a lot of it's probably not good information. But it was really difficult to find stories of people who had similar symptoms as me. And I tried everything. I tried cutting out meat and being a vegetarian. I did raw vegan for a while, and that didn't go well. I did the blood type diet. I did combination diet, and I tried all kinds of supplements and probiotics and enzymes and hydrochloric acid. You name it. I tried everything. But I also kept reading about gluten, and I kept just skipping over that, because I loved bread, and I did not want it to be that. I did not want it to be bread. I didn't want to have to stop eating something like that. And and this was around the time when people were really starting to talk about gluten, and it seemed trendy, and it just seemed like everybody was jumping on this, no gluten bandwagon. And I just thought it was a fad and that it wasn't worth exploring. And I also thought, it was mostly related to celiac disease. And I knew somebody that had celiac, and I knew my symptoms were not that severe. But really, I just didn't want to give up bread. So, but eventually things got so bad, and I knew I couldn't continue living on soup. And I was willing to try just about anything. So I had also read a lot about elimination diets, which was even worse than just giving up gluten. But I thought, if I need to make sure it's not, if it's gluten, it may be gluten, but I need to make sure it's not something else as well. And so I decided to do this elimination diet that I found. And basically, you eliminate all the major food allergens and all the major groups of foods that people generally report having symptoms and reactions to. So that meant no gluten, of course, no grains really of any kind, no corn, no nightshades like tomatoes, potatoes, peppers, things like that, and no legumes, no citrus, no eggs, no pork, no dairy, no shellfish. It was much easier to explain what I did eat because that list was much shorter than what I didn't eat. So I still ate most fruits, vegetables, except for the nightshades, and I ate beef, chicken, and fish. And the goal was to stick with this diet for 6 weeks, and then you reintroduce one food per week to see if you react. And if you react, you have to wait till your symptoms completely disappear, which could take several days, or for some people, it could take a week or two. You have to wait till all that clears up before you can introduce another food. And it felt like the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It was so restrictive compared to how I was used to eating. And, I couldn't really eat out during this time because I didn't know what ingredients were in the food, what, spices, or, lots of people put gluten into, sauces and things like that you wouldn't expect would have gluten in them. But I stuck with it, and I could tell a difference after 3 weeks. So the gut discomfort that I had been dealing with pretty much was gone after 3 weeks. And the funny thing was that I started noticing other things that I really wasn't expecting or even trying to fix. So I'd had acne since I was, I don't know, 11 years old. And even all throughout my adulthood, I would still get breakouts on my face, but mostly I had them on the back of my neck, on my chest, and on my back, all over my back. And I had like a small cluster of bumps on the lower part of the middle of my back that I'd had for years that just never went away. That all cleared up. I mean, I had clear skin. Probably took longer than 3 weeks to clear that up, but after the 6 weeks, for sure, I had basically clear skin, and I hadn't experienced that since I was a small kid. And then for years, I had taken an antihistamine every night because I had these allergy symptoms, and I would itch all night long. It would keep me awake, and I would just itch all the time. But I was able to stop taking that antihistamine. And I had also had this knee pain that I'd had it for, I don't know, 1 or 2 years. I don't really remember how long I had it. It wasn't severe, but I would notice it when I would walk downstairs or I would try to run. I would have this pain in my knee that was unexplained because I'd never injured my knee. I also had a weak elbow, like when I would try to lift up a glass of water or something. I felt this weakness and this pain in my elbow, and I had no idea where that came from. Those went away. And even my menstrual cramps, which had been debilitating at times, became just something that was more of an annoyance than anything else, which was a relief because I would hurt a lot during those times of the month. So after 6 weeks, it was time to start trying to add foods back in. And the first thing I tried was walnuts. The week went by, I ate walnuts, I think, every day. And, you just do small amounts. You don't go overboard on them. And I was fine. I didn't react to the walnuts. So I was like, oh, that's good because I really liked walnuts. So I thought, oh, all right, good. I can do walnuts. And after that, it was time for me to try gluten. And so first day, I ate a piece of toast, I think, and nothing. I was fine. I was like, oh, it's not gluten. And so the second day, I ate another piece of toast. Like I said, I didn't eat a whole loaf of bread or anything. I just took it pretty slow. And again, I was fine. I had no symptoms. I felt completely normal. And so the third day, I was feeling really confident. I ate another piece of toast. And I think probably later that day or then early the next day or that night, I started feeling that raw, uncomfortable, painful feeling in my gut again. And I was not very happy about that. And it took a few days. It was probably 4 or 5 days or more for that to go away. And so I was, that was disappointing. And I can't remember what I tried next. I kept adding, I might have tried like eggs or something, which I was able to eat eggs at that time. And, but I eventually realized that I could not tolerate nightshades or dairy. And of course, the gluten or really any grains. I think I could I still ate rice sometimes. I think that was okay, but I couldn't like do any grain substitute. I did also stop eating legumes and pork. I just have a really hard time digesting pork. It seems like, but I could still eat most meats and the vegetables, except for the nightshades and the fruits and nuts, except for I know peanuts, which is a legume. And I found that I could occasionally indulge in something on the do not eat list. If I only did it once in a while, even bread I could eat. But the problem with eating something like bread or dairy is that once you eat it, you want to eat it again and again and again, and it's really hard to moderate that. For me, it's really hard for me to moderate, and the cravings come back for it really hard and really fast. For me, it's easier just to not eat it at all. Because it's either not eat it at all and not have to think about it all the time, or eat it once and I can't get it out of my mind for like the next week. And even though I was feeling a lot better and I had more energy and my gut wasn't hurting anymore, I still felt really sorry for myself. I think I went through what felt like the 5 stages of grief multiple times. The first is denial. And I convinced myself that maybe I wasn't really reacting to these foods, and I kept testing them. And I get hopeful, when I didn't react for the first 2 or 3 days, but then eventually, I would start getting symptoms back, whether it was the gut pain or the joint pain or the acne. I'd break out or something. And that's how I figured out that dairy caused the breakouts, and that dairy caused the itchy skin, hives, and that's why it's really hard to figure out if food is something you're reacting to, especially if you're eating a lot of different things, because sometimes you may not react till 2 or 3 days after you ate it. And so this is why doing an elimination diet and being really strict about it is so important. Second stage of grief, is anger. I was really pissed. Why me? Why this isn't fair that I can't eat cake or French fries anymore? I was just like, why is this happening? And then, there's the bargaining. And maybe I just eat a little bread and it won't trigger anything. Or maybe I can cheat on the weekends. Or what if maybe there's a supplement I can take that'll keep me from reacting to this. Or maybe I can just take an antihistamine, to keep from reacting to the dairy. But of course, it never worked. It's not something that you really want to do. And then eventually I hit depression. I'd feel miserable that I'd never be able to enjoy my favorite foods again. And going out to restaurants just wasn't the same, because you have to watch the other people at the restaurant enjoying all of their desserts and their appetizers and things that you just can't eat. And, you have a piece of meat and a few vegetables on your plate, and then you also have to make sure that, the restaurant's not cooking, not, drenching your steak in gluten or something before they cook it. And then there was acceptance. I adapted to the way I was eating. I tried to focus on, that I was feeling much better. I felt so much better that I decided to take a parkour class, which, before would have felt impossible. I don't think I could have done it at all. I had a lot more energy, but the grief, it took it a long time. It took a long time for it to go away. It took a long time for me to adjust. And those stages would keep coming back, not always in the same order. I would go back into anger, or I'd go back into depression, or I'd go back into bargaining, just kind of spontaneously sometimes. And, I managed like this for several years. And it was fine. I did really well. I like, if you watched any of my other videos, I continued in the parkour classes, and I made a lot of progress, and I was able to do a lot of wonderful things. Then as I approached my 50s, some symptoms started coming back, along with new symptoms. Other things returned in ways that I didn't expect, and I started going through menopause. I had this time when I would break out into hives, and it happened for over a 6-month period where I had hives every day. And I asked my doctor, if menopause could cause something like that. And she said menopause can cause anything. And so I've read that menopause can make food sensitivities worse, or make you react more strongly to foods that you didn't used to react to, and there was a lot. This was 2020 when I turned 50, and COVID happened during that time. The gym closed down. I was supporting extended family financially, and it was a huge financial stress on us. I was going through menopause, and I was having hot flashes every hour of every day and night. I wasn't sleeping, and my food sensitivities and reactions just kind of started getting worse. Started having more headaches, and I started just not feeling as well when eating certain foods. And so I started cutting things back again. And that's when I decided to transition to the carnivore diet, because I needed what you would call the ultimate elimination diet. But it didn't stop there, because I started reacting to other meat. And so now I'm on the lion diet, which is only beef. So in my next video, I'm going to talk about how and why I transitioned into the carnivore diet, what was going on with my symptoms, what I was trying to fix, what I thought it might do, how I learned about it, all of those things. There were lots of ups and downs, mostly downs in the beginning. It was a really difficult transition for me. How it's been going ever since then, and what my plans are going forward, because I really don't want to just eat beef the rest of my life. Some people say that, you can find lots of people saying on YouTube that that's perfectly healthy and fine. I don't think anybody knows what's perfectly healthy and fine. I feel good right now. I don't know if this is the best I've ever felt in my life, but I still have issues, even when I'm just eating beef. I can still break out into hives. I still get some itchy skin. I still have digestion issues that just have seemed to have kind of cropped up again, and I don't know why. And I don't really know how to figure it out, so, but I'll keep everybody posted and stay tuned for that next video. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.